What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and today I want to react to something that I've seen circulating online and creating a lot of discourse in the New York Giants fan base and community. Now, there was a podcast that former New York Giants starting quarterback Daniel Jones recently appeared on called Fitz and Wit. It's hosted by Ryan Fitzpatrick and Andrew Whitworth, and a certain clip from that podcast has gone viral. Shout out to at NYG Crush on Twitter for posting and sharing the clip. But I did watch some more of the interview and have some things to take away. And I just want to react to it and have a conversation, not so much about Daniel Jones, but just about the state of the New York Giants. Because, guys, truthfully, I'm not eager to sit here and talk about Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley, Leonard Williams, Julian Love, any of these players who have left the New York Giants and gone on to find new levels of success elsewhere. I don't really want to talk about it. Daniel Jones doesn't play for the New York Giants, so I don't want to sit here and talk about Daniel Jones. However, some of the things that Daniel Jones said in this interview highlight certain criticisms that I've had of Brian Daboll, this regime, and the New York Giants at large. And so I do want to react to what he's saying, interpret what he's saying, because in many ways, people are interpreting this as a diss, a subliminal shot at the New York Giants and at Brian Daboll. So I'm going to go ahead and share the clip with you all, react to it in live time, and then just have an open conversation about my thoughts and feelings towards this current iteration of the New York Giants. So we'll waste no more time. I'll go ahead, share my screen, and we'll dive right in.
Right, he was. But when you talk about that Minnesota experience, I'd be curious to know. Like, I feel like we're all, like, even at our age and not playing football, we're all looking for how we grow and adapt, just in life in general. But when you say Daniel Jones, New York Giants, and then go to Minnesota and come here, what are some of the things you feel like you've grown in, or maybe experiences you've had that you've matured from?
Well, I always thought I worked, really hard. I tried to work really hard, and it was important to me to prepare, watch film, study. And I think I did that, but then going to Minnesota, I saw how Sam prepared, how, Kevin prepared those guys, Josh McCown, Grant Udinski, that crew, and how detailed they were day in and day out on every little bit of the plan and how they're going to study it, what they're looking for, walking through it, quizzing each other in the quarterback room. And that made a big impression on me. And I was like, okay, this is maybe the next level of some of that stuff. And I think that changed. I think Kevin's just how aggressive he was in the play calling. I mean, you guys see it. It's like, it's play pass, but it's a lot of drop back shots, taking their chances. And that made an impression on me too. So, I think several things like that and just being around those guys.
So, guys, there's the clip that's done the rounds here of Daniel Jones kind of talking about the New York Giants. And as you can see, Andrew Whitworth asked him the question and phrased it by asking him, what did you take away from the Vikings in comparison with your time with the New York Giants? And the number one thing that Daniel Jones immediately pointed to is something that I've pointed to as a major criticism of the New York Giants in recent years, and that was preparation. The Giants are consistently unprepared. I've said this many times before, and I know a lot of you do agree with me. To his credit, when Daniel Jones was here, you guys know I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones fan. Towards the end of his tenure with the New York Giants, I was over him, and I thought, you know what? The Giants aren't going to be a good football team with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones isn't going to be a good quarterback with the New York Giants. It's time for both parties to move on. That's best for both parties involved. Let's start a new chapter of each of these two parties' careers, right? That's where I was. But what I'll say is there was a time where I did believe in Daniel Jones, and I thought that he did flash potential to be a franchise quarterback for the New York Giants. And one of the things that I always praised him for was his work ethic. The guy is a first one in, last one out worker. His mentality and his ethic and his drive to improve, his preparation was always there. That's something that I never criticized Daniel Jones for. Yes, I criticized him for a lot, but never for his preparation or work ethic. But to hear him in this clip say to Andrew Whitworth and to Ryan Fitzpatrick that he thought he was always prepared during his time with the Giants and then realized when he got to the Vikings, he's not very prepared at all in comparison to those guys. To me, what does that say about the New York Giants? Because it doesn't say anything damning about Daniel Jones. That guy was always prepared. He always did put in the work. But did the New York Giants always prepare with him? Did they help prepare him for Sundays? Well, it feels like no, probably not, because the Giants that we've seen under Brian Daboll are always unprepared. Daniel Jones had a lot of praise to share there for Kevin O'Connell, Josh McCown, Kevin O'Connell being the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, if you're unfamiliar, Josh McCown being their quarterbacks coach. Those guys are revered in this league. They are seen as some of the brightest quarterback coaches in football right now. And not just Daniel Jones, not just did Daniel Jones learn from them, develop, and go on to have success, but Sam Darnold being one of those coaches who found success, or quarterbacks who found success under those coaches, rather. And of course, we've seen guys like Sam Darnold was coached by Josh McCown during his time with the Carolina Panthers. He's gone on, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. Those two went on to find a lot of success after being coached by Josh McCown. They know what preparation looks like at the quarterback position. And now Daniel Jones does too. And I don't think he had prior to his time with Minnesota because of the lack of preparation that the New York Giants had. So I looked at that as Daniel Jones making a direct comparison. And I feel as though it was a little bit of a diss and subliminal shot. And I don't blame him. And this is the other thing that I want to get to. Again, I wasn't a Daniel Jones fan. I blamed him for a lot of the problems that the New York Giants had, and I pointed towards his poor play on the football field, especially in 2023 and 2024, as something that was holding the team back. But I don't think I placed nearly as much blame on Daniel Jones as the New York Giants did. The Giants really this offseason doubled down and blamed Daniel Jones for all of their problems. What do I mean by that? Let me explain. Last season, the Giants went as far as to cut Daniel Jones midseason for his struggles and the team's struggles at large. If you do remember, though, at the beginning of last season, Malik Neighbors was the first one to stand there at the podium and say, it's not the quarterback. I'm not getting the ball. The offense isn't moving. You saw it with Daniel Jones. You see it with this quarterback. You see it with that quarterback. It's not the quarterback. I'm sure all of you remember Malik Neighbors saying that to the media. He said, ask the coach why I'm not getting the ball. Ask the coach what's wrong with the offense because it's not the quarterback. And one other thing that we know is true, Giants players respect the hell out of Daniel Jones. They always have, and they still always will, even though he's now on the Indianapolis Colts. That is a truth that will stand the test of time. They loved Daniel Jones in that locker room. Yeah, there was definitely a frustration with the offense, but what the Giants did this offseason was essentially run back the exact same group of playmakers that they had last year, but with a new quarterback. And what they signaled to everybody was, if we get the quarterback situation figured out, everything else will work. This whole offense will start scoring touchdowns. This offense will look explosive. We don't need to upgrade at wide receiver. We don't need to upgrade the offensive line because the actual problems with this offense were Daniel Jones. That's what the Giants signaled to everybody by not touching their offense at all, other than making a change at quarterback by signing Russell Wilson. And that was wrong. That's been proven wrong now because the quarterback is not enough to just elevate this entire offense. We're seeing Jackson Dart have his rookie growing pains. We saw Russell Wilson have his struggles. And we've seen that the New York Giants do not have enough talent on their offensive line. They do not have enough talent in their receiving core. So essentially, the Giants blamed Daniel Jones, said that a new quarterback will click it all into place, and that Jones was the issue. And now Jones is over in Indianapolis thriving at 4-1. He's on pace to throw for over 4,300 yards. And the New York Giants are a 1-4 football team with the 28th scoring offense in the league. That is a sad state of affairs, and that speaks volumes to a lack of preparation on the New York Giants' behalf. The Vikings are prepared. The Indianapolis Colts are absolutely prepared. The New York Giants are consistently underprepared for every matchup that they face, including last week against the 0-4 New Orleans Saints with Spencer Rattler starting with a career 0-10 record. He went out there and looked like a Pro Bowler against the New York Giants defense. Underprepared. The New York Giants went out there. They couldn't tackle. Underprepared. They fumbled the ball several times. They didn't tuck it high and tight and protect the football. Underprepared. They had almost 100 yards in penalties called against them. Underprepared. They lead the league in penalty yardage called against them this season. Underprepared. The New York Football Giants under Brian Daboll. So Daniel Jones, I am not a Daniel Jones apologist or truther. I won't apologize to him, but I will say he has a point. he is right to call out the New York Giants' lack of preparation and compare and contrast it to these other successful teams around the league that do prepare properly, that do put in the work, that do have a coaching staff that cares, that gets behind its quarterback and does everything that it can to make that quarterback succeed. Because the New York Giants didn't do that for Daniel Jones. I've blamed Daniel Jones for things, and he deserves blame. He played like shit when he was here, especially those final 2 seasons when he was with the New York Giants. He was a bad quarterback, and make no mistake about it. But the New York Giants were also a really bad and poorly coached football team. They didn't give him receiving talent. They didn't give him the necessary talent on the offensive line. They didn't give him an exquisite play caller like he's being coached by right now with the Indianapolis Colts and like he was with the Minnesota Vikings. They set him up for failure in many ways. They did not set that quarterback up for success. So now Daniel Jones finding that success in a new home in Indianapolis, he does have the right to call out the New York Giants and say they do not prepare the way that these other teams prepare. And it's just a confirmation of something that we've said many times on this channel. We've said, look at these other teams and how prepared they are. The Giants are always the lesser prepared and lesser coached team. Why is that the case? And we're finding out our answers by seeing guys like Saquon Barkley go off to Philadelphia, say, this team prepares properly. That's why I'm successful. We're seeing Daniel Jones go to the Vikings and the Colts and say, these two teams, they prepare. That's why I'm finding success. So it's really not a matter of me sitting here and apologizing to Daniel Jones, because I won't do that. He played bad football when he was a member of the New York Giants in 2023 and 2024, and for several years before 2022 as well. I'm not apologizing to Daniel Jones, but I am going to say that the New York Giants did not set Daniel Jones up for success. And this is where this is going to lead into a larger conversation. They didn't set Daniel Jones up for success, and they are not setting Jackson Dart up for success. And I do not want to see the New York Giants do to Jackson Dart what they did to Daniel Jones. Failed to prepare him for Sundays, for Thursday nights, prime time versus the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a big game, and these are bright lights that Jackson Dart is going to be playing under in tonight's matchup. But I don't want to see the New York Giants set this kid up for failure like they already have started to. No wide receivers called up from the practice squad for week 5. No wide receivers added in free agency because, hey, they only have $1 million in cap space. No additions to the offensive line this offseason was a red flag that we needed to pay attention to, because John Michael Schmitz is still struggling. Greg Van Roten is still struggling. Evan Neal is a healthy scratch. They didn't do anything to upgrade the protection in front of Jackson Dart. And yes, it's been better. Andrew Thomas has made it much better. But this team overall is lacking preparation, is lacking strength in numerous key areas. Since Brian Daboll has taken over as the New York Giants head coach, the Giants have started 7 different quarterbacks. 7. Daniel Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Drew Lock, Tim Boyle, Tommy DeVito, Russell Wilson, and Jackson Dart. They are churning through quarterbacks at an unprecedented pace. And I do not want to see them turn to another quarterback. I don't want to see this latest quarterback just be another cog in a machine that grinds down quarterbacks, because that's what we've seen. Russell Wilson was not an elite all-pro player last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but he was a Pro Bowler. He did have the best deep ball in football. They did find ways to get open receivers for him. They did find ways to make him a serviceable starting quarterback in Pittsburgh, to go to the playoffs with him. And the New York Giants acted like they had no idea what to do with Russell Wilson, like they couldn't wait to bench him, just like they couldn't wait to bench Daniel Jones, like they couldn't wait to bench Drew Lock. This is not a quarterback problem anymore for the New York Giants. This is a coaching problem for the New York Giants. This is a Brian Daboll problem for the New York Giants. This quarterback guru, this offensive wizard, this mastermind, he's none of those things. His true colors are being revealed right in front of us as other players go on to other teams and have far more success, while he continues to handcuff quarterbacks and offensive skill position players in this awful New York Giants offense. So I wanted to rant. There's a lot to rant about nowadays as a New York Giants fan. We have avoided the topic of Daniel Jones on this podcast so far. And listen, guys, it's only been 5 weeks. The Indianapolis Colts have played some really bad football teams. A lot of these wins that Daniel Jones are getting, his defense and special teams are scoring touchdowns for him. They are sure beating teams like the Raiders and teams like the Dolphins by over 20 points, but those teams are really bad. And so I'm not going to sit here and be like, the Giants let the MVP of the league walk out twice, 2 years in a row, essentially. I'm not going to sit here and say that because Daniel Jones has only handed 5 solid weeks of football to the Colts right now. Let's see a larger sample size. Let's get to the end of season. But even still, some of the throws that he has been making, some of the plays that he has been making, the Giants tried to sell everybody a bridge that he was not capable of making those plays and those throws. Clearly, he was with the right environment around him and the proper coaching developing him. And the Giants were the wrong environment, and they had the wrong coaching developing Daniel Jones. He went as far as to say in that interview with Fitz and Witt that he got pretty close to losing his love of football because of all the losing that the New York Giants were doing and because of the environment that the New York Giants were putting around him. That's sad, and that's not the first time we've heard such a thing. We've heard other players speak like that before. We've heard guys like Saquon Barkley stand there and say, it's really tough, and I lost my love for the game when I was playing for the Giants. We heard Odell Beckham Jr. say it was tough, and I lost my love for the game of football while playing for the New York Giants. That is a consistent trend that's taken place over the last 9 years of New York Giants football. Players, good players sometimes not good players, but a lot of good players losing their love for the sport as a member of the New York Giants, then leaving the Giants and finding that love again and finding the success that they didn't have with the New York Giants. It's a damning thing to hear about an organization when all of these players are losing their love for the sport that they dedicated their lives to while playing for the New York Giants. It's sad. So, again, I wanted to rant up here and share with you guys my reaction to that clip and to that video. Daniel Jones didn't know what preparation was like with the New York Giants, and Jackson Dart right now is not going to learn what preparation looks like either. And that's why I've said this before. I know that Dart is Daboll's guy, and I know that those two have a strong relationship. But in my estimation of him, Brian Daboll is a bad coach who has turned some good talents into really bad players. That's what I've seen during his last few seasons here as a member of the New York Giants. And I don't want to see a talented young quarterback like Jackson Dart have his career turned sideways by poor coaching. And if Jackson Dart is talented, if he is really good, as we're seeing with other players who leave and become better elsewhere, continuity is not all that important like we used to think it was. A lot of people look at Daniel Jones and say, the Giants shouldn't have fired Pat Shurmur. They fired the head coach just after the quarterback's rookie season. That was what stunted Daniel Jones's growth. That's not true. Firing Pat Shurmur, who was a bad coach, was not the wrong decision that the Giants made. The wrong decision that they made was to hire Joe Judge and Jason Garrett immediately after firing Pat Shurmur. That was the decision that stunted Daniel Jones' growth. So firing Brian Daboll is not going to damn Jackson Dart to becoming a bad quarterback. That's not going to stunt his growth. Hiring the wrong coach after getting rid of the bad coach will, though. And so the New York Giants, they should fire Brian Daboll because we should not want a bad coach harming the development of Jackson Dart. And that's what I fear is happening right now. I fear that Brian Daboll is going to stunt Jackson Dart's growth. But I don't think that firing Brian Daboll is going to stunt it further. I think that's going to release him from bad coaching and give the New York Giants an opportunity to find a new good coach who can get the most out of Jackson Dart. Now, the big question is, who would that coach be? Well, that's a tough one to answer because you don't want to miss on the head coach again if you're the New York Giants. That's the only reason that Brian Daboll is still here, because they didn't want to miss on a head coach again this past offseason. But imagine if they hired Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels, and look at what they are doing with Drake May right now. Imagine if they did that for Jackson Dart. Remember, guys, the Patriots built a whole coaching staff last year, drafted Drake May. After a year, they realized this isn't going to work. Let's bring in a new coaching staff to build around Drake May. And now look at the success that Drake May and the Patriots are having so far this season. That's what the New York Giants need to do with Brian Daboll, firing him and bringing in a coach to build around Jackson Dart. That's what they need to do. Build around the rookie quarterback and build a coaching staff tailor-made for him. And hey, you know what? Some names in mind, if you guys really want to know, go look at that Minnesota Vikings coaching tree. That Minnesota Vikings coaching tree developed Sam Darnold. They developed, of course, Kirk Cousins when he was there. They're developing right now. Carson Wentz is looking better than he has in years under the Minnesota Vikings tutelage. And of course, we'll see what happens with J.J. McCarthy over there in Minnesota. But Kevin O'Connell knows how to coach quarterbacks. He knows what he's doing. And so does Josh McCown. So Josh McCown is a great candidate to become a head coach this upcoming offseason, especially when you consider his time with the Carolina Panthers. He helped develop Sam Darnold over there and with Minnesota, but also helped develop Baker Mayfield. So, and Josh McCown famously known for wanting C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young when he was a member of the Carolina Panthers. So that's just a name to keep in mind. But really, guys, the Giants need to be careful when they do fire Brian Daboll because it seems inevitable. This offseason, they have to get that coaching hiring right. They have to get a guy who can step in and actually prepare this team and prepare the quarterback and develop the quarterback of Jackson Dart. Do not do to Jackson Dart what you did to Daniel Jones and handcuff him to bad coaching. That's what the New York Giants unfortunately did with Daniel Jones. Now that he's got good coaching, he's thriving, and I don't want to see the Giants handcuff Jackson Dart to bad coaching. If he is a good, true talent, if he does have star potential, firing a bad coach is not going to stunt his growth. Hiring another bad coach will, but if you have a talented young quarterback and then you hire the right coach to pair with him, Jackson Dart could see development that makes him a star in this league. And that is a risk that you need to take, and you need to move on from Daboll, in my opinion. So those are just some of the points that I wanted to make. Listen, Daniel Jones, he's not doing anything that special, in my opinion, but he is thriving in many ways in Indianapolis, in ways that he wasn't here with the Giants, and he does deserve credit. And he does have the right to call out the Giants' lack of preparation and poor coaching, as he's learned a lot since leaving the New York Giants. Now, the Giants also need to realize there are really good quarterback developers and coaches who prepare these quarterbacks properly around the league. They don't have them in this building right now, but they're over in Minnesota. They're over in Indianapolis. There are some really good coaches around this league, and the New York Giants ownership needs to take notice of that and find those good coaches to put on the New York Giants coaching staff and in the New York Giants building. So, guys, the New York Giants constantly underprepared. You just heard it from somebody who spent 6 years with the New York Giants, basically saying, when I got to Minnesota, I learned what preparation looked like because I didn't see that when I was with the New York Giants. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this conversation. I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts down below in the comment section. I know some of you are going to drop comments down below saying he's not on the Giants. Stop talking about him. This is the first time that I've talked about Daniel Jones since he's left the New York Giants. So cut me some slack and allow me to rant about the lack of preparation of the Giants and my concerns for Jackson Dart, because that's what this episode was about. This episode wasn't about Daniel Jones. This was about the New York Giants. But Daniel Jones's comments highlighted some things about the New York Giants. So have an open mind with this conversation, with this episode, and definitely do leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Do make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you're new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. We will probably be doing some sort of post-game reaction for this Giants versus Eagles game. I don't think I'm going to be live streaming during the game, guys. I'm sorry to say that, but I will be giving you a post-game reaction. That much is for certain. And I'll probably be doing a preview prior to the game as well. So could be a triple upload day today on the New York Giants or on the Fireside Giants YouTube channel. So stay tuned. Again, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure you leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go New York Giants.
Perfect.